If Argentina was a story of brute force knocking down the door until the hinges gave way, Japan's was more one of climbing through the third story window, disarming the alarm system and setting booby traps for unsuspected tier 1 nations. Because I followed Japan for years, from the 2003 World Cup where they gave Scotland and France a wee bit of a scare, to 2004's Autumn Internationals where Scotland put 100 on them and Wales put 98 on them, to 2007 to 2011 where they were threatening to break through but could only manage draws against Canada. Their improvements at the time looked incremental, and with hindsight you could regard them as exponential. Because despite the small improvements, the draws against Canada, the win against a second-string Wales team when half of the squad was on the British and Irish Lions tour to Australia in 2013, no one, I mean no one, saw what was coming in 2015. So before we go any further, I want us to relive the greatest moment in the history of sport, let alone rugby.
Strauss saved the try. Tatakawa. Murphy! Here we go! Hesketh! Carl Hesketh!
Now, we all know that day it was a Kiwi-born winger from Hawke's Bay called Carl Hesketh who undid the Springboks for the greatest upset in Rugby World Cup history. But who were the guys that dragged them up against Tier 1 nations when they were considered the best of the rest? Well, the easy starting point is to go back to 2019 and look at the dangermen they had out wide in Kotaro Matsushima and Kenki Fukuoka. Now, I think Matsushima took a lot of the limelight because he scored a hat-trick in the opening game against Russia, picked up tries against Scotland and then also Samoa, and he has quite a few pretty important assists. His assist for Goromaru in that game against South Africa, he picked up an assist against Scotland as well for Kenki Fukuoka, but it's actually Fukuoka's record that's the most insane here. 8 tries in 18 games against Tier 1 opposition. Fukuoka had it all. He could run, he could tackle, he could jackal, as illustrated by the final act in that game against Scotland. Having scored 2 tries and set up another, he made the final turnover at the breakdown for Japan to kick the ball off the field and secure a famous win in Yokohama. Fukuoka was a man possessed that day, and in particular that second try where he stripped the ball out of Chris Harris's hands and canted 50 meters downfield to score Japan's bonus point try was one that lives long in the memory. Fukuoka would go on to retire at the end of that World Cup at the age of only 27 to pursue a career in medicine. And to be honest, he robbed the general public and all of the world rugby of 8 more years of amazing wing play. This guy could have signed for any club in the world. He was the best winger on the planet in that tournament. And no one can fight me about that. You will never change my mind. You will never convince me that Colby or Mpimpi or Josh Adams were better than him. He was off the scale. Fukuoka picked up tries against Ireland, Scotland, Wales and Italy, and he also pulled off an assist against the All Blacks back in 2018. Beyond the dynamic duo of 2019, I've got to give a massive shout out to Hirotoki Anazawa, who picked up 5 tries against Tier 1 teams in 10 games. And this is in an era where Japan obviously weren't winning like they were in 2015 and 2019, including a try in the World Cup against New Zealand and a try against Wales at the World Cup, a game I was actually at back in Cardiff in 2007. I want to give you guys a little bit of perspective on what these tries actually mean, because whilst Brian Habana is equal with Lomu as the all-time World Cup try scoring record, none of his 15 tries were scored against Tier 1 opposition, unless you count the 2 against Argentina in the semi-final of 2007, which you could make a case for, but at the time they weren't Tier 1s. So these guys' records, and in particular Fukuoka's, is even more insane to me, given the disadvantages that they had. Japan's story is a classic example of why we need to give the Tier 2s more opportunity. Because for the longest time they looked like they were making the smallest steps. Because the lessons were compounding and the fear was going to the other side. From Onozawa to Matsushima to Fukuoka, one generation after another. A little sharper, a little quicker, a little less scared. Until one day Japan were not the nice little development story anymore. They were in a World Cup quarterfinal and the whole world was wondering how they had missed the signs.